Good
It's
morning,
we're
everyone.
live.
It's the 16th of December, 2025. Thank you for being here. Tell us where you are in the world. Put it in the chat. And I have another tab open. Hashtag KMT for our giveaway
A
today is
t-shirt.
what?
A t-shirt.
Brother Ray is listening in the background. You there, Ray?
I'm right here.
All right.
All right. So today we have Duncan Smart. We'll be talking to him in a little bit. Put your questions in the chat, please. And Dr.Kiltz, you want to introduce our guest?
Well, I got a chance to meet my friend Duncan Smart, who is an author, a carnivore, a teacher, a mathematician, a human being like some of us here. Thanks, Alia. We did invite Dr. Nelson, didn't we? He managed to get here. But, and Duncan, why don't you open up, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what your background is, and how you managed to find yourself on a carnivore a blog today.
Okay, I happily talk about myself. I've recently retired from school teaching, and so a retired school teacher loves to talk about themselves. I think they're so full of themselves in the classroom to try to entertain the students. So just cut in any point that I might be saying too much or talking too much. So to give you my background, I have been a carnivore 8 years. When I started to tell everybody this message over the last several months, I realized that my message from the 7 years has actually gone to 8 years now. I had a 2-year introduction through the ketogenic, keeping my carbohydrates under 50 grams, 2 years prior to that. But prior to that, I was a 4-year vegetarian. So I stuck to the vegetarian route for 4 years, maybe started to eat a little bit of fish towards the end. But how I came into this way of living, this lifestyle, wasn't through how most other people I've met recently arrived at this point, where to heal themselves. I subconsciously healed myself, but no, I wasn't aware of anything that I needed to heal. I came across this way of eating was purely to fuel endurance and events, my athletic performance. Which is triathlon. I wanted to go into Ironman distances, to ultra run marathons, and I was getting so fed up with that fueling through those energy gels every 20 minutes and the carbohydrate loading and standing on the front of a start line for a marathon, feeling so bloated, and having colleagues of mine having to run to the toilet, and worse, some don't even get to the toilet before they have intestinal problems. And then the recovery afterwards. So my research started into ancestral eating and how, as humankind, we got to this point through our ancestors. And there is plenty of evidence out there, plenty of documentation, plenty that's actually gone hidden over the years. And that's why I wanted to bring it back to life again, bring back these pioneers of the carnivore way of eating in my book.
And what are the books called? Do you have copies of them you could show us? And
Robert, I have copies everywhere. I have copies behind me. It's called Carnivore the Manual. Not that anybody needs a manual, but it's written. I've written it the way I like to read books. Being a mathematician, you may say, what does that give you the right to actually feel as though you could write a book? Well, actually, I am data driven. As a mathematician, it has to be black or white. The gray area doesn't really compute to me. Okay, I'm abstract, math does, but I like the data. So when I go into the research, I will do research. So what I'll do, I wrap up the science and I evidence the science, and then I will speak it through a parable. So that little bit of science, to make it available to everybody, is written around a parable, just as many of our teachers in the past have taught that way. And perhaps, hopefully, then people will start to see themselves in that parable and relate to the science a little bit more. So we've got Carnivore the Manual. If anybody out there is looking and they see a Blood and Bone, the Vampire's Guide to the Carnivore Living, it's exactly the same book.
Mhm.
I've repackaged it. One's more of a smaller book. The first one was almost the manifesto of carnivore living. I wrote it the way that I did it. I think as a thing of beauty, So it was a huge book.
Well, it's sort of like this. You made a statement about what gives you the right to write a book. It's only you have a pulse, and you can fuck a mirror. You're alive. Everyone has the right to write a book. Everyone has the right to share their opinions. See, all of us in science think, "Oh, I'm a scientist. I'm right." What does hard science mean? And absolute truth to you, Duncan. Is there such a thing?
As absolute truth in science? Yes, actually, now you started a whole conversation there, Robert.
Well, isn't science, okay, we prove science with statistics to a probability because it's observational and it can never be absolute.
No, you can't be absolute on that case.
Right, so we're sharing a massive, amazing story because what matters most is your story.
Yes, it does. And my partner will be watching this and she'll be saying, why did I even put a negativity on that? A slight negative slant by almost apologizing for writing a book. But I fear from I went through school saying, oh, I can't write. I'm a mathematician. I'm a scientist. So I think that I've actually programmed myself into that self-belief. I think that's what that is.
You sound like Kiltz. That is exactly it. Because I was a mathematician, but I didn't know it, that I was good at science and math. I couldn't read. And so I even still say I couldn't read. Now, I couldn't because of the plant-based low animal fat diet that damaged the function of my brain and made it all gobbledygook. It was crazy, right? So is it possible, and my next question is going to be, you taught students who are learning, but could they truly understand and learn as well on the diet that the schools and the authorities push them towards?
Okay, you really hit the nail on the head here, Robert, because as a teacher in mathematics, in fact, about 4 years ago, I was nominated for Teacher of the Year award. I was the runner-up. There was teachers more deserving of that. The reason I achieved that is because I obtained 100% success rate with the students that I was teaching. Now, I said to them I didn't deserve that because that was my position, that was my job, as long as I could engage in those students. What happened in my later years as I was approaching retirement, I started to specialize with the students with neurodiversity issues, the ADHD, the autism. I also started to see the correlation to what they ate and what was available in the school cafeteria. And what they were parents, and please, anybody listening to me now with children, I am not criticizing. I was a single parent with 3 children. I was a busy teacher. I used to put the cereal bowl in front of them and said, get your heart-healthy breakfast. I did it incorrectly too. So please don't blame yourself. Just maybe start making the right approach. But back to what you were saying there, most definitely, I saw students literally bouncing across the walls. They did not understand what was wrong with them, why they couldn't focus, why they were struggling. And then we put them into a classroom and say, you must sit there and learn for an hour, then go to the next lesson, learn for another hour. They were saying to me, so I'm so tired, and they're yawning away in the lesson. Yes, because they have that brain fog. Yes, because they have that insulin bounce. They do not know this. They can't comprehend it themselves. Take them to the school cafeteria. And in the last year before I retired, I was fortunate enough to be able to work one-to-one with a lot of these students with special needs. As I took them into the cafeteria 5 minutes before everybody else, because they couldn't be amongst busy situations, And they said, what am I going to eat, sir? And I said, please don't ask me to recommend anything, because there is nothing, not one thing in here I could eat. Now, these beautiful dinner ladies that worked in my school, they would smile and they look at me and say, oh, Mr. Smart, you can have these chicken nuggets. I said, no, because they're wrapped in breadcrumbs. They've probably been fried in seed oil. And then one would joke and say, oh, but the only thing you can have is our salt. I said, no, I can't even have your salt. I do not want your salt because it's not even proper salt. It is manufactured salt. One lady said to me, how about that water? And this is while my student was standing in front of all the bottled water. And I said, every single one of yours is flavored water. It's added sugar, it's added sweetener to the water in a school. And we dare to hang an award outside the school saying we've won a healthy eating school award. Now, there is not one thing I could eat in that. Just to cut this a bit shorter, I coincided my book publication with the day of my retirement, just because I've got so many chapters in there that speaks out about this, speaks out about the so-called healthy plate, the so-called food pyramid, which we have to teach at school. I could not, and I got pulled into the head's office, actually state my viewpoint on this. Now, I agree with that, because as a school teacher, I should not be stating my political views or my religious views, because we're influential people. But the same goes, I could not speak out about the food. But I tell you what, those colleagues in that school, the vegans and the vegetarians, and I admire these people, they were allowed to say it. In fact, they could wear a badge of honor on their sleeve and say, I am a vegan. As a carnivore, I could not say this.
Well, you could have, and this is maybe where strength and lion-like courage comes up in a carnivore, because until we start speaking up, we're going to always be down here. But we know that lions are a small percentage of the animals in the world, so we're okay with that. But maybe it's time. Maybe your next book is a adolescent child's book on how we can inspire everyone around the world. And then the other is, what about homeschooling, and more homeschooling, but it's becoming, now with social media, our ability to communicate these stories is really radical, and we need to push hard, but we've got to be afraid to do it anyway.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Really good point. Absolutely good point. And if I could take time back, I would have been braver in that school. I would have spoken out louder. But we have concerns about the job and about work. But how I did it, Robert, so I still did it subtly. I did it in my own style, which is of getting into the Great Britain team to a triathlon. There were students watching me on the television on the World Championships, and then them talking about it and say, sir, especially those 15, 16-year-old boys, and they would look and say, I want to be like Mr. Smart. He can do 60 pull-ups and 60 press-ups at the age of 57 years of age. I want to be like him. What do I have to do? So then they start to ask the questions. Then they subtly start to ask, without me actually, this has been a good teacher, is actually allowing the students to ask their own questions, rather than me force feeding them those answers. So I suppose I did do it in my own subtle way.
Well, so I think what we're saying that's important is be the example. And then people are always like, because they look at athletes and others, but we need to look at each and every person. It's like, well, what is your lifestyle? What are you doing to make your life and so spectacular? And you have been sharing it. I mean, that's the whole point for all of us here, is everyone is a rock star, is an athlete, is an author, is talented. And all of our jobs are to speak up and or simply be the example. And you can be that thing that we admire. And it's like, well, how do they do it? And that's the whole intention with Kiltz Mighty Tribe and Healing Humanity and so many others around the world. We want to be the shining light to attract people to new and different ideas, from a kid who grew up in Los Angeles, kicked out of school in a gang, couldn't read, father in jail, So I will tell you from my experience with migraines and bowel problems, anxiety, and afraid of social events, and still harbor a little bit of that as I move into it. But now with the power of the power of faith in God within all of us, and we're called because the struggles in the life you lived before was exactly the one God wanted you to have. Does that make any sense?
Makes lots of sense to me. You're speaking my language there, Robert. You're speaking the voice of the carnivore, the carnivore voice, we can call it. And
what's a new language around the globe?
The language around the globe, yeah. And that's what, as I think you mentioned, beacon. We are the beacons out there of light to try to show everybody by example and say, and whatever media you use, whether it's the social media we're sitting now and presently on, or through my written textbook. I mean, I've got to try to get the word out there. I get shot down quite a lot because people say, "Oh, you're just trying to promote your book to make some money." Well, yes, the more money I make, the more I can promote the word out there. But also, if anybody looked at how long it takes to write a book and the actual the cost to yourself, I don't think I'd recuperate that in years. But it's still a way of getting the message out there. And it's through a way that I love to be to transmit that message, if people are willing to listen and to read.
Well, when you speak or you share it, there's energy around the globe that's touching everyone. Whether you're listening, paying attention or not, that's the whole purpose here. It's touching everyone in ways maybe we don't understand yet. And this is where electromolecular energy and vibrational energy and the glycobiome, which are the critical parts of the story.
I like that. You are again speaking a similar language to me there, and it's something we haven't had the opportunity to talk about, is that vibration, not just the vibration of the word, but the vibration of the thought and the positive thought. I mean, I'll just touch on it briefly. What happened in Australia this weekend on Bondi Beach, on my whole weekend almost fell apart because my daughter was on the beach on Bondi Beach. And she rang me absolutely tearful. I'm tearful to hear that she's still alive and she was okay, but she could hardly get a message out. And those vibrations from that negative energy, from that, I could sense that, I could feel that. All I wanted to do was get on a plane to Australia to make sure my daughter was okay. She lost all her clothes on the beach, her phone, everything was left behind because she was just running in a direction of fear, of chronic fear. But so it's all about this positive energy. I said to her, just don't dwell on the news. Don't look at anything. Just try to lift your energy into a higher field.
Stand still and know that I am God. That's the magic of his words. And his words are our words. And we are spreading the energy around the globe. Let your vibe let your vibe find your tribe. I love that, George.
I love that.
It's a vibe, find your tribe. And basically, it's like sending out smoke signals and, it's calls for the wild. We are wild types. We are moving away from the standard. We're moving to the wild type. And ultimately, this is a movement, like, in my opinion, like Jesus Christ, Moses, Muhammad, Abraham, and more. And write the books, blog, do the documentaries, share the stories around the globe, which is so important and critical. Are you a member of KMT?
No.
All right. We have to make all those that are on our tribal content as members, Alia.
Yes.
All we need is your email address and you're officially a member.
You're
And
officially
we're
a
going to make
member.
everyone ambassadors around the globe. Prophets, I think they're called, or disciples. Which ones?
Ambassadors.
Yeah. And because we're here, like I traveled all the way to London. George picked me up I was there. I arrived at 8 a.m. I left at 8 p.m. And I managed to leave my laptop there and to share a story that we will go around the globe to share this story with everyone and anyone. And is fasting, do you incorporate fasting in your story?
Myself, yes. Daily. I have one meal a day. That's how I operate. At the weekends, maybe relax a little bit more. I meet up with my partner when we may share a beautiful lunch together. But my existence is one meal a day. I compete. I race fasted. I've even experimented with a water fast a dry fast I've tried running a marathon. I've run 28. How long endure? So I set about with an experiment a few years ago to try running 28 miles on a hot day here in the summer on a 24-hour fast and zero water. And it was good. It was under 4 hours, but I would not recommend that to anybody. It was an experiment for myself. And what I learned from that is not a healthy way to go about it.
You're right. Running 20 miles is not normal.
No, it's not normal, but I wanted to explain. The whole reason I discovered this way of eating, this lifestyle, was through experimentation, Robert. I foolishly never looked around to see if there was anything out there on social media. I was only looking at it from my viewpoint from an ancestral way and thinking, how did man hunt animals to exhaustion? And it was merely running them down, maybe relaying it a little bit. But I wanted to try that to see how it would work. So I kept it quiet. I was very, very careful about it. 3 children living with me as a single parent. I wasn't going to share this information with them because my poor daughter would have bought into that idea that a father was going to suffer from chronic heart disease, eating saturated fats. So I kept it quiet. But my athletic performance increased. I tried to experiment with this by standing on the start line for marathons, and I felt so good because I felt as though I was just a boundless energy, unlimited energy. Well, we all know sitting around here now that because I'm a fat burner, I can tap into a fuel source that many others can't. And
everyone's a fat burner, by the way. Nobody burns sugar. Impossible. That's Kiltz's theory. We've got it wrong. But you lowered your glucose levels in your bloodstream, and so you feel better because the plant sugars are highly toxic.
I agree. How about if I use fat adapted then? If I've adapted my body to run more efficiently and quicker on the fats than the carbohydrate burners that would be searching.
Well, I like to be scientifically correct because it's an impossibility to burn sugar as energy. Sugar has other roles that are more important, but because it's for glycosylation and structural and transmitting and all those sort of things. Basically, we are all fat burners, but we become sugar addicted. And sugar damages our body. And I mean, how many meals a day did you eat as a vegetarian or vegan?
Oh, I was getting up to 4 or 5 meals a day.
So was your gut ever empty of food?
No, never emptied, and always irritated as well. But
right. So if your gut's always full of digesting food, what's your bloodstream sugar all the time?
Well, it's going to be up here, isn't it?
Elevated. If sugar's elevated, what else is elevated? Insulin.
Insulin, yeah. Right.
So insulin to me is a digestive enzyme. It doesn't regulate blood sugar. It only makes sugar in the liver via amino acids and sugars, makes fat in the liver. So ultimately our fat adaptation is basically saying we have a low sugar environment and we're now removing the toxic chemicals from plants, which are the real source of our problem. We'll talk more about it. It's a radical concept because I believe that we are never sugar burners because fat's always being burned in mitochondria.
Okay.
But sugars are damaging every cell system of our body.
That makes sense. That does make sense. Are we touching on the Randall cycle as well here then?
No, Randall cycle. Another cycle in a petri dish in a lab that someone claims is the most important thing. It isn't. It's just, again, your liver is the most important organ system of your body. It converts all your digested protein, amino acids, and glycan sugars via insulin to fat. Because if you can't make fat, you're dead. And two people cannot make fat: type 1 diabetics and severe cirrhotics. And so you're a scientist, a mathematician, and for us to recognize these concepts, because we use the term fat burner and sugar burners as if the mitochondria burns sugar. It doesn't. It burns acetyl-CoA. And if you cannot make fat, like an anorexic, are they healthy? They're not. No. And so that's where the simplicity of carnivore faith and fasting is like the home run, wouldn't you say?
That makes a lot of sense, does that, Robert? That does make a lot of sense. Yeah, and I think what I've discovered by this self-experiment, this discovery, was not only, it was probably the healing, as you say, more because of my intestinal healing and because of avoiding and removing the plant toxins and everything else associated with it. And well, so my analogy that I've misused over these years, and my analogy was a petrol engine to a diesel engine, a DERV engine, being the fat burner or the sugar burner. I've actually got that slightly wrong in my mind, although my body's been working efficiently on it all that time. And the ketones, that clarity of thought and that removal of the fog in my mind has been beautiful, as something that I cannot describe to anybody else.
The fed state, okay, your full gut is always sending amino acids and sugars to the liver, because that's the hepatic portal system goes directly to the liver. And so in that state, the liver is always working. And what is it working to do? What's the liver the job? Detoxifying what you ate or making fat? Is it making fat? 100%. That's its job, because a cirrhotic is emaciated and skinny, despite having plenty of insulin and glucose. They cannot make fat. A type 1 diabetic cannot make fat.
Okay.
That's the only problem. That's why our diets in the world are plant-based, protein-based, lean meat, and we don't eat fat. And so if you eat fat, the food of the fat cells go to your lymphatics and don't go to your liver. Insulin's not required.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to throw out from the fact that we make this so complicated. Randall cycle, Krebs cycle, all these things. Those are scientific experiments in a petri dish from someone that wants a Nobel Prize.
That makes a lot of sense, does it, Robert? Yes.
So if you're skinny, if you're 100 pounds versus 300 pounds, and there's no food for 3 months, who survives?
Yeah, well, we know that the answer to that. So that is interesting.
So ultimately, why do we get fat? Is it pathologic or physiologic? We've made fat a pathology, but it's not. It's actually the most valuable, important thing of the universe. If you are a skinny person in a famine, you're fucked.
Yes.
And so we get food intermittently, because there's no delivery service, there's no cook, there's no farmer, there's no rancher, there's nobody but you and your tribe to follow the herds and eat the meat, the milk, and the blood. Go ahead, Dr. Nelson.
We do have a lot of questions, but I wanted to ask, what is your longest prolonged fasting you have done?
Yeah, probably the most is probably 30 hours or so. I've never gone much further. And I think it's because after 24 hours, I feel as though I need that food. When I say about 30 hours or so, it's more when I've gone to compete overseas and say, take example, the World Championships in Spain. I incorrectly flew out there on a day when no food was available and I was racing. And so I just prolonged my fast, not from choice, but from necessity. But I had a really good result. I felt quicker. I felt okay. So I purposely don't do any longer fasts. My partner and I have been discussing maybe perhaps going on to 48-hour fasts and to see how it feels.
Well, 48-hour fast is very easy. Just keep one day of eating and eat at the normal times you eat, and that's 48 hours. You know,
That's very...
what time do you normally eat your meal on a day?
Normally on an evening. So because I'll have been training and enjoying the day, and then I'll sit down probably about 7, 8 o'clock on an evening.
So you skip one day and you eat the next day at the same time. That's 48 hours.
Yeah, I love it. I love the clarity of that. I will do it.
Questions.
Okay, let's do some questions. Beaver Sticks wants to know why we're up at 5 a.m.
Where every day, obviously, this is.
I was up at 2:30 today.
Huh?
I was up at 2:30. Ray, what time were you up?
Me, I was up at 6 a.m. this morning, but so I must have been sleeping in compared to you guys.
It's 11:30 there now.
It is, yes. That's what time it is here now. So I've had a lovely, beautiful morning. I've done my yoga and my meditation, and I just feel ready to go.
Next question.
Is it true that we can only absorb a certain amount of protein per day?
No. I like short answers.
Oh, good.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question while I have these such knowledgeable guys on the other end? I've been led to believe, and we've already established that perhaps my concept of fat burning and sugar burning is not quite right. What about when that over a certain amount of protein that your body turns it to glycogen? Am I?
Okay. All right. So we're all duped by the science in nutrition, in my opinion. Have you ever heard of the glycocalyx?
I've heard of it, but I don't completely understand it.
Okay. So imagine the plants out on the soil, right? The garden. Let's take away all the plants. The sugar layer in the garden, we have a dense sugar layer on every cell of our body. It's called the glycocalyx. Every cell of every organism, from the tiniest organism to the most advanced organism, contains a sugar layer called the glycocalyx. All right? So in fact, okay, this question about protein. Nobody eats protein. You either eat plants or animals. You eat cells of organisms. And every cell of every organism, every plant cell and every animal cell has a glycocalyx, a sugar layer that's attached to proteins, which is attached to the membrane, which is a phospholipid bilayer. So whatever you eat, in general, becomes digested, right? And the digestion breaks down all plants, all animals into 3 major products: amino acids, simple sugars, and fatty acids. The fatty acids go to the lymphatics. The amino acids and sugars go to the liver. The liver's job is to make fat, to make VLDL and an adipose site eventually, because your body in general, we eat more calories than we burn, and then we burn more calories than we eat if you're living a truly normal human existence, which is hunter, gatherer. Nobody's cooking for you. Nobody's cleaning for you. Nobody's raising the animals or producing the food on a ranch or a farm. Nobody. So let's go back to how we initially work. A bear. Does a bear get fat in the late summer, fall? They better get fat in order to hibernate.
Yes.
And when they hibernate, what do they burn?
Fat.
What's the building blocks for the babies in utero? They're not eating, they're not drinking. It's adipose tissue, because adipose tissue contains sugars, proteins, fat, minerals, and vitamins. Adipose tissue is not some dead, bad tissue on your body. It is the most valuable, important tissue ever created by nature. Without it, you're dead. We're just eating an herbivorous diet, which is made for animals that can mostly tolerate the diet. But I was reading the book by Zoe. I can't remember Zoe's last name. Zoe wrote a book called Light Eaters, and she had a story of 3,000 Udu. These are like impalas in Africa that died in one afternoon because they were eating a plant that they commonly eat, but the plant manipulated its chemical production of tannins and killed the herbivores.
Wow.
In one felt swoop. Is that it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One
and
felt.
so can herbivores be harmed by an herbivorous diet all day long?
Yes. Very much so.
Yeah. So it sounds complicated, this story, doesn't it?
But it's not, is it?
It's simple, right?
Yes, it is.
It's so simple.
I think we overcomplicate it, don't we? And
we do. Like we make this huge scientific stories. Oh my God. What was that message, Alia?
Here it is. I
That's
started
important.
carnivore.
We're doing my second month of pregnancy, 37 weeks, perfectly healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is carnivore good for every human being that exists? Whether you're pregnant, you're breastfeeding, or you're anywhere in between, male or female? 100%, Duncan.
Yes.
You got to speak the words, Duncan, because some people are listening.
Oh, so I apologize. I'm nodding my head because I didn't want to interrupt other speakers. Yeah. Yes, I said 100%. And as a mathematician, I do like 100%. Never 101%. Never.
Yeah, always.
So that's interesting, is all that, Robert. Thank you. And because I have, maybe perhaps as an educated person, or believing that I'm so educated, I've actually then sometimes caused myself more problems because I then try to learn about the Randall cycle or the other cycles and actually not truly understand it because it doesn't actually make sense to me sometimes, and as you say, if it was an experiment in a Petri dish, perhaps that's why.
I just want to correct George's note. It's Zoe Schlanger who wrote Light Eaters, not Zoe Harcum. It's a whole different person. She's an amazing writer, and you got to read the book Light Eaters and essentially think about it. What's the first thing that life created? It converted sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water into a sugar. Sugars are the foundation of life. They're the structural integrity of every plant and the outer shell of a lobster. Okay? So sugar is actually massively the first and most important thing. It's just not your energy.
That makes lots of sense. Yes.
We've given sugar. The reason is because the people who did the science on sugar were told, let's make sure the most important thing to eat. Let's talk about the Krebs cycle and the Randall cycle and the glycolytic cycle. We've been duped by the science.
We've been duped by the science, but we've been duped by it since the 70s, and we've been duped by the misrepresentation of data from Ansel Keys, and which
well,
one
Ansel
of the
Keys, remember Ansel Keys? He's just another human being like you and I that were in a system that told the story because you're paid to do it, even though you knew something opposite. Now, all of us, by the way, this is not you, Duncan, alone, but ultimately our jobs and our money trump everything else. Ansel Keys was in the same position. He was a scientist paid for by the people who control the message and control your job and your money.
Thank you for that, Robert, because I'm a big believer in thinking about it from a different viewpoint and looking at things from somebody else's shoes, if you want to say. And over these last few years, I've been demonizing Ansel Keys because of that data, the 22 country studies, which he published as 7. I'm thinking, as a mathematician, I cannot eliminate data from a research study. I cannot cherry pick which data. But now, actually, what you've helped me do there is look at it and think, no, he was only fitting into that narrative from somebody else's narrative, not his own.
But when we look at data, human beings are biased. The data and science is absolutely biased. I always say data is doo-doo. You have to think, see, the problem is we think science in petri dishes. We don't think organistically, and life forms aren't a petri dish. And so things work very differently anatomically and physiologically than a scientist in a petri dish. We make lots of theoretical claims that are mostly based on the fact that you're at Harvard and you've got a large grant and they're going to let you into some of the nice parties and maybe the Metropolitan Club, and they're going to all smoke a cigar and drink about a bottle of wine with you. They're going to invite you to the party. We are highly biased by our natural instinct of wanting to be liked and fit in and get paid. It's really hard to be the outcast like Jesus Christ because you're going to get crucified.
That's true. I suppose it goes right back to ancestors that I started off with my research. Going to a fellow tribe or a different tribe for existence, they would have to feel liked to fit in with the narrative of that tribe. They couldn't speak out. They may not have existed much longer, or worse, exiled from that.
Yeah, again, we're telling in a massive human story, and there you have to read the book Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters. It's a sociology book.
I'll look out for that.
It's about our basic natural instinct, which is only twofold. Food,
sex and food.
Food and effing, reproduction. And ultimately, as long as and we do things to show off our nature as a man or a woman to get those two things, because the only thing that matters is your children. And making children, as hard, as difficult as it is to be in a relationship, to be married or whatever it is, it's the driving force of the universe, because all microbes and all organisms are life forms, and some of them are actually smarter than you and I.
Wow.
Faith-focused food freedom is saying, I just bought.
Oh, sorry, Doctor. That was my fault, Doctor. Sorry, go back. Sorry.
I don't even know where it is. There we go. I just bought your book, Carnivore Manual. I would love to also listen to it. Any plans to also provide it on Audible?
Thank you. That's a great question, and it's been asked by quite a few people. I am definitely going to do that. I'm going to narrate it myself because I think it's really important, and I love to listen to a book that's narrated by the author because they can put the intentions where they want it to be. And what we're looking at there, Robert, is that
This is an app called Speechify.
Oh
And
yes,
basically, you can download any book and get it read to you.
But
So
to use that though, his book needs to be on some sort of digital form, PDF, text, so
Well,
Speechify can read it.
well, is it a digital Kindle form yet?
it's definitely in digital Kindle form. It's available from
Already,
most
it's already
most
in
of it.
Audible form. Already it's
Kindle-
Audible.
So Kindle
And-
will read it for you. You don't need the Speechify, by the way.
Well, the beauty of Speechify is you can actually pick who does the reading. So you can actually record a voice and it will record your voice as you wish it to be read.
That makes sense. What I've started to do now on my social media groups is reading a little bit from my books. I'll read a passage and then discuss it a little bit more. And the feedback, the comments I'm getting is actually people like my voice. To me, it just sounds like a northern man in England that's rough and ready. But I think people out there do like it. I was invited to a podcast in South Africa to talk about their ancestral eating. And again, it was back to how I started, Robert, when you said to me I shouldn't think negatively. And I thought, what right do I have from ancestral Viking ancestors here in the north of England to be in South African talking about their ancestral eating? But the feedback was fabulous. People were really interested. Now, perhaps it's because it's a third party discussing it. It's not somebody who's living it discussing it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well,
Yes.
again, we're all telling stories. And each of us has the power of God because we are God. We are the strength of the universe because our story creates reality. It's only a story. You're here for finite part of time as a human being, but we're infinite as molecular energy and electromolecular energy. So whole point here is be controversial.
Be controversial. Yes, stand out, make yourself heard.
Yeah.
Get that message out.
I mean, the Jews had a plan to expand their religion and they decided a story called Jesus Christ. He's a rabbi.
A rabbi, yes.
And did that story grow? Massively, so much
Of course it did.
the Islam decided to create it created a new religion too. But it's all the same ancient religion that we started the day the universe had the spark of life in it.
And the message, yes.
Yeah, it's a message, a story. It's a story.
Okay, can I ask a question? I'm going back to my food system, my self-discovery when I started to go from ketogenic eating or keto to full carnivore. What I've noticed in my athletic world is my power declined. I started to lose speed. Now, that may be now we've established it may have been in my mind. It might have been while my body was healing. I had this idea that it was I didn't have the sugar. I wasn't consuming the carbohydrates that gave me that powerhouse. That was my idea at the time, my narrative. But slowly over a year or two, the speed came back, and the speed came back double-fold, 3 times. So much more power. Plus, I had the endurance. However, I've often put that down to perhaps my recovery was so much better. And what I noticed after running, say, a marathon, I could recover so much quicker, maybe in a day or two, so I could train more. I enjoyed the training because of that. So perhaps it might be a number of things. Any views on that?
Well, is caffeine a drug or is cocaine a drug that makes you excited and stronger?
Well, they both make you excited, but...
Well, they can actually create temporary, right? So whole idea are plants drugs, and is sugar essentially a drug? See, we think plant sugars are only glucose, right? And so there may be some transient, and in some cases, because you're powering down glucose, but it's not because ATP is being produced. It has other epinephrine-like functions that give us power and speed.
Right.
Okay, so again, we're like Brain Energy by Chris Palmer. The body's got plenty of ATP. That's not the problem. The problem is the other chemicals in plants are highly toxic and could be damaging. I mean, can people who are on drugs have superpowers that even 10 cops can't bring them down?
Well, they certainly feel as though they can, I believe.
No. There are situations where people become superhuman, and it's because they're on drugs.
Is it masking the central governor? Is it masking that?
Again, now we're trying to define the why part of it. All you need to define is that. So why is sugar? Why does our body want to eat sugar?
It's addiction, is it?
It's not addiction. It's nature. Why does a bear want to eat sweet things? Instinctually, because the brain, every cell wants you to be fat. Your addiction to sugar is physiologic. But in our modern world, we have so much excess of it, it becomes pathologic. But sugar consumed in small amounts with a lot of fat, likely how we did in nature, normally before our evolution of a civilized world, we probably ate small amounts of sugar and in the right times in short bursts. So we can find a story in every side that I have less energy, I have more energy, right? You're asking an individual question, which is hard to answer directly. But if you look at population, we're seeing is a carnivore strict lion's diet, meat, salt, and water, realistic for everyone or anyone?
I would say yes.
So in our current environment as a human animal, is the likelihood that you're going to never eat anything else true? It is not, because our environment is full of the natural foods we can eat and thrive and survive.
Yes.
So we are only making up this concept that we're carnivores and you should only eat animal products, which likely isn't true, evolutionarily speaking. It does make us feel better, but do you drink coffee?
Oh, I certainly do. I always describe it as my
Is that
vice.
a plant chemical?
It is a plant chemical, yes.
Okay, and you never touch any other plants products?
Well,
I do.
Occasionally, yes. It's
right. So there, we're not absolutely 100% only eating animals, salt and water, which is, again, it's because our environments speak to life has more to do than just being strict carnivore.
Yes.
You can be whatever you want. It's not necessary to live a long, thriving life. And by the way, plant sugar, cane sugar, and beet sugars and honey was not significantly found in our natural environment, right?
No, it wasn't. Interesting.
And we naturally crave sugar because the universe doesn't want you to starve. Is that dumb?
I like it.
Again, I'm just throwing out some interesting ideas in all of this.
I love the idea.
We crave things. We crave relationship. We crave sex. We crave food. And we will eat whatever food's in our environment. And we will go to a bar to find a mate and do things that are dumb for the only directive in the universe.
Yes.
Make
Just
babies.
make it very simple. I like that.
Are there any other comments or questions that we've thrown out in the day?
A bunch.
All right, butt in.
Isn't there a shop site for KMT and people businesses who have been interviewed? I looked and found Kiltz supplements, product shirts, hats, tallow.
Does
it's being worked on.
Dr.Kiltz.com have all of those products on it, Alia, including the
Not yet.
molecular supplements? All of this is part of what we must have done so that people have access to our stuff, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's that's what's more important, is that people have access to our books and our hats and our shirts and our Chotsky stuff. Why? Because we want the tribe to be strong. We're Mongols.
Mongols.
I want to answer a question. Yu Young, I think it was. Let's see. What is she asking? She wants to buy the Kiltz Health Digest. You can buy it if you want.
Well, yeah.
Hold on. We'll make arrangements to do that, but it is free, and I'll put the link
Digital.
in the.
But you can buy on Amazon with all of these things a paper copy, because some people like to have paper. I love paper still. I can't read digital shit. I want a paper copy. That's why I buy a ton of books. Always buying books.
I just posted the link for you, Young, and everybody else who wants to click on it. Hey,
Yeah,
look at page 20. It's very good.
And we have the new digest coming out in January. It's actually maybe
That's
out
the new
right
one.
now.
That's
Yep.
the new one. The link I put is for the new one.
So-
It's already out.
So Robert kindly gave me a copy when I met him last week, and I took it back, and I've been reading that, and I left it with my partner. When I went to go and see her this weekend, it's beside her bed. I'm saying, so this week while I've been away, you've been sleeping with Dr. Kiltz all week then, with the image beside. She goes, he's a very interesting man. And of course, my mother's favorite author is myself, and she's saying that Dr. Kiltz is a very interesting man. So even my mother will have a new favorite.
Well, we love you, Duncan, and we got to have you do. We got to get a Carnivore Conversations interview and share most. I mean, look at the most important thing is we're here to be productive, not watch TV, lay on a couch. These are inspiring times. I got up at 2:30 this morning, and I was on my computer at 3:30 in my office, reviewing some new papers and books and podcasts we're producing to share with the world. I sent it to Dr. Nelson for his critique and edition.
Amazing.
And thank you, Carnivore Muscles, for the super chat, please.
Yeah, thank you.
So, when I met Dr. Kiltz last week, and I was listening to him talking, and my party trick almost is when I then tell people that I'm 57 years of age, they all turn and I say, wow, you look so good for your age. And I said to Robert, I said, you've outdone me on the age. He looks younger and he's older. And that's one of the comments from last week, Robert, that I said.
Well, and we're all going to get old and die, but that's a physiologic but not a psychological need. So physiologic, it's happening, but psychologically, we want to. And the carnivore lifestyle is massively changing. I think the physiology also, but the psychology, it opens up the brain. How did it change your brain when you went carnivore?
Incredibly. What it was, I found in those meetings after school, when the head teacher said, oh, Mr. Smart, we've got to meet, and you've been teaching all day, and I've been up early with the children, and I've been planning lessons late at night. And okay, we all yawning and tired away, but I couldn't think of certain words. You know, when people say it's on the tip of my tongue, I suddenly found this clarity, and it was a clarity of thought. And almost, and then this sounds strange, it was almost as though I was in a different time zone to other people. Almost it slowed time down. A bit like an athlete would say when they're in the zone, or a boxer or a martial artist will say they're in the zone. They could almost see the punch coming, or that's how I feel. It also helps me in the athletic world, because if I'm on a bike and I'm at 40 to 50 miles an hour taking a racing line, you've really got a split of a second decide if you're going to go on the inside or the outside. And that helps massively, because it's almost feels as though there's a slight time delay. Well, if there's a slight time delay in my concept of time, my perception, then I can think of the response, whether it's an action or a word or a thought. I can think of it quicker.
Well, watch birds and fish that work in groups, right? The flock, the school, or other animals, right? Horses and things like that. I mean, ultimately, we're mostly damaged by a plant protein diet. Proteins are deadly for humans in any significant amount without fat. We don't eat protein. We eat sugar and ultimately, but you eat plants or animals. Which one has the least toxins in it?
Well, animals.
And a protein mix is an industrial product that you got to question exactly what's it there for.
Mm-hmm.
And protein does not build your muscles. Fatty tissue does, because it provides the energy and the building blocks. And that's how a bear makes 1 to 4 baby bears in utero, and it loses no muscle mass or bone mass. It's because adipose tissue is the most important, abundant tissue of the body. Who won? Did you hit it already, Alia?
Not yet.
Why not? What are you waiting for?
Here we go.
Okay, good. I have Alia and Dr. Nelson to keep me moving in the right direction, by the way.
He keeps us in the right direction.
I think we all need to.
Congrats. Please email me, alia@drkiltz.com. Go ahead, Duncan.
I think we all need to move in the right direction. Sometimes take a step back, but then go 2 forward. So.
All righty.
All right.
Top of the hour.
Duncan, thanks for being here. You're the
Zoom
best.
call
Thank
in the
you, everyone,
community.
for being here. And
Zoom call tonight at 5:30.
Let's keep on inspiring, sharing the words. And you are a rock star. You are capable of everything and anything. And to be afraid and do it anyway. Thanks, Dr. Nelson. Thanks, Alia and Duncan. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Nice to meet you all.
Duncan.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.